Hey guys, I'm Red, and this is LEGO Star Wars set number 75433, released in 2025 for $70 with 707 pieces, with 3 beautiful minifigures, 2 of them being exclusive. This is Jango Fetts Starship. Now that's all the basic information through with, and let's just look at the box. Here is the front of the box, and usually I don't really like LEGO Star Wars boxes, but this one's pretty cool. It has all of our information on the left here with the orange strap here. It does have the Clone Wars box art, which is really interesting because this is a episode 2 set, not Clone Wars, but I don't know, that's weird. But anyway, it has a beautiful picture of the set with the Geonosis planet in the background and the asteroid field in the center there with the seismic charge flying out the back. And you can also see our 3 minifigures on the bottom there. The top here, just like usual, is just a bunch of legal stuff, and then Llama Sue is our scale minifigure. On the right side of the box, it just says LEGO Star Wars and a picture of the Slave One there. And finally, the back of the box here shows off all the different play features and things we will look at later. It says LEGO Star Wars once again, and it has a picture of Kamino, which is really nice. The first minifigure we're going to look at today is the young boy Boba Fett, and I think we all know what's wrong with this figure. People on the internet have torn apart ever since it came out in the big giant Jango Fetts Starship, the UCS one, but in a $70 playset. I don't think this figure's bad. It's just the issue that he came in the over $200 set where the issues are. But anyway, the hairpiece is pretty cool. I like it, how it swoops down to the left here. They could definitely use that for Cole from Ninjago. You have the kind of young boy face look in there. It looks pretty cool. And then his shirt is just a blue shirt with a brown belt. You know, it's yeah, nothing too exciting going on there. And he does have the same kind of back printing. And then when we rip his hair off, you can see that he's like super confused because Obi-Wan is in his apartment. The second mini we're going to look at is the main figure in the set, and this is Jango Fett. And of course, he does come with these 2 famous blasters, and I really hope they don't change him because these work really well for him. So I think they're perfect. He does also come with a jetpack in that gunmetal gray color. And the figure itself is actually very, very nice. I love the Jango Fett helmet itself with the new rangefinder piece. I think that's really nice. It's not going to break on you or anything, so it works very well, and it looks really nice when you have it up to his like visor, I guess. Looks pretty cool. And the torso there is almost unchanged from his basic 2013 version. Just a slight more detail on the left and right side there. It looks pretty cool. And then the legs also got a little bit of an upgrade with some more silvery details and some toe printing. Doesn't have arm printing like he did in the UCS set, but I think since it's just a little playset, they don't have to put that on there. And then on the back there is just a little spot for his jetpack to hook on, so they're not going to add too much detail. He also comes with a alternate hair piece, but since I got the set used from my local Bricks and Minifigs, he didn't have it, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. But he does come with this pretty cool looking face here. You can see all of his different scars and the kind of stubble he has going on there. I like how they did that. And then on the other side, he's super angry while he's flying because Obi-Wan is chasing him through an asteroid field. And last, but definitely not least, this is Llama Sue, and of course she is a Kaminoan, so a little bit of a different head mold going on there. Different from the first Kaminoan we got with the Obi-Wan Starship, so this is a brand new mold, and it looks fantastic. I really like how they did that with the kind of collar going up here towards the back, and these, I'm not sure what these are, maybe like fins or something, or like spiky things going off the back there, but it looks pretty cool nonetheless. Moving on to the torso there, I like the lavender color mixed with the black and white. I think that looks pretty cool. And you can see there's just, I don't know if it's supposed to be negative space on the hips, but they did something to kind of black out the sides there. Looks pretty cool. And she just has plain black arms and white hands. But then she does have this dress piece here, which pretty cool. I like the colors again. And there's nothing printed on the back of her dress, but she does have back printing, which is the same kind of thing. I really like this minifigure lineup. I love all 3 of the figs. Obviously, Llama Sue and Jango Fett are exclusive, but since Jango Fett is a variant, people were pissed because it wasn't the same as the UCS one. But why would LEGO waste their money on a small playset when they're going to make more money on the UCS one? But I don't know. And I know people are pissed because they just buy it for the fig anyway. They don't even care about the set. But speaking of the set, let's look at that. Before we get into the set itself, there is kind of like this cargo ship thing here. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but like in the Star Wars universe, I guess. Obviously, when we're playing with it, you can pull that up, and it's supposed to be like a stand for the Slave One. So it works really well. and it's like a really nice design using all these cheese slopes and cut tiles there at the bottom. Like, it looks really nice, but I'm just not sure what it's supposed to be. Guess you could throw a seismic charge in there, but that doesn't really make any sense. But using it as a stand is super easy. All you got to do is take the back of the Slave 1, kind of place it right above the wedge plates there, and it'll kind of just rest up on these arms here. And it works really well. And this isn't 2002 anymore, ladies and gentlemen. This is definitely smaller than the older version of the Starship that we got before. But in 2002, they used giant pieces, and this one uses a lot smaller pieces. So it works really well, and I really like how they did it. Of course, there's more detail packed in here. There's all kinds of different things. So why don't we start at the top? On the top here, you can see it starts with like this dark blue color, and it kind of slopes down because the ship needs to be sleek and flat. So looks pretty well up in this kind of top area in the dark blue there. You can see there is a sticker, maybe supposed to be like a vent, and it does the same thing on the other side there with another vent. And then on the top here, of course, is the sand green color with 2 more stickers on the sloped pieces. And there's also a little bit of yellow to give a nice pop of color there. Moving on to the wings, they both move at the same time like always, but they don't actually like go with the ship anymore. You kind of have to move them yourself, and I can't really do that with one hand, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And I guess if you try and land it like this, it will flatten itself out. You have to help it a little bit, but I think it still works pretty well. And you can kind of see how it works here in the back. It's just a big Technic axle moving all the way through to connect the left and right wings. Before we move into the cockpit, you can see this kind of rounded off area with these dark green kind of half circle pieces, I guess. They look really well, and they work well. I think I like that. And they use a little bit of yellow there, kind of in between the dark green and the white. Looks pretty good on both sides there. Of course, it is identical, but still, looks pretty good. And then moving on to the cockpit, there's not really much going on here. If we just lift up this windscreen piece, you can see there's no armory, or there's no like consoles or anything for Jango Fett to play with. But I think, again, it still works well because this is a smaller scale playset. So, you know, I think it works out pretty well. And there is just enough space for Jango and little boy Bubba to sit in the cockpit there. You do have to remove Jango's jetpack, but once we close it all up, you can still see both of them in there. So I think that worked out well. Moving on down from that, though, is just more sleek kind of detailing here with all the different slopes and the cut tiles, and it just looks really, really nice with the different pieces they used. Like those 1x2 they use for Speed Champions all the time. They use these kind of slope pieces here for the guns, and then they also use that, of course, clippy one for the guns. And it is identical, so you get the exact same thing. The wedge plates, the 1x2 for Speed Champions, and these massive guns on the front here. Of course, these are supposed to be like these ones, but it's all supposed to shoot off at once to give it the effect that it's all going at once, you know. And then before we test those out, I just want to look in the middle here. You can see they use all of these different kinds of slope, like the 1x1s, the 1x2s, and then this 2x4 actually that they put a sticker on with some dark green in the middle. They just added a little more detail there with the yellow and a little square of dark gray. And then they kind of blended the dark green and sand green together. Kind of simple how they did that, but again, still think it works pretty well because you do get the sand green there and the more dark green up in the middle there. On the, I guess it's like the tip, they use a little bit of yellow to highlight it and just some more white down there, which again works pretty well. Of course, to fire off the guns, all you have to do is pull the trigger and it will shoot off and land right there. Before we look at the main play feature of the set, I just kind of wanted to show off the back a little bit, how they use these kind of like anti-pieces to give it a little more detail on the back there. They didn't have to do that, but of course it does give it some support as well. They use these 2x4 plates and some yellow plates to give it the booster effect that it's taking off. And then they use these dark brown circle pieces with the 2x2 anti-pieces in yellow. And then moving down, you see that white thing there, which of course we will look at in just a second. Moving more towards the runway, you can see even more of those dark blue slopes. I really like getting more of those. Get a little bit more yellow with the 1x2 slope there, and then the 1x2 regular slope, and then it's mirrored, so you get the exact same thing on the other side. But from the yellow, we get to the sand green. And I always like getting more sand green pieces. I think this is a beautiful color. So we get even more slopes and even some cheese slopes to kind of round it off and give it a nice sleek look at the bottom. Okay, this is kind of a trial run here. I don't know how well this is going to work with one hand. If you can see that 2x2 slope there, and then you can see the runway, all you got to do is push in the 2x2 slope, and then the seismic charges will just fall out, And again, I think it works pretty well for the scale it did. Of course, now that it's loose, we have to fix it. And of course, it's super easy. All you got to do is just push it back in place, and then push the ramp back down, and now you can close it again. And of course, you can fit both seismic charges back there. They do fit pretty well. And then the back here will just close itself up back with friction, and then they won't fall out. Yeah, look at that. Now that's really all I have to say about this set. I did really enjoy it. I liked getting all three of these minifigures. I liked seeing Jango Fetts Starship again. The box art didn't really make sense to me. It was a 3/32 clone. So for like the Clone Wars, instead of maybe like a Jango Fett or a, you know, young Anakin. But I guess they kind of cheaped out in the box art, I'm gonna be honest. And I wish they included a little piece of Camino, but already $70 for a place that was kind of pushing it. And I feel like if it was like 75 or 80, people would be even more pissed than they already were when this set first released. But, you know, it's Lego Star Wars, so they know people are going to buy it. So, yeah. And last but not least, what do you guys think about this set? Why don't you leave a comment down below and let me know. And while you're done, hit like, subscribe. It's easy. It's free. And I don't know what our next video is going to be yet, but it'll be something very exciting.